How do you make sure your kids don't grow up spoiled?
Man, I think about that every day. That's the one thing I think about more than anything else. Wealth destroys lives if it's not properly managed. Do not want to steal that from my kids. Like my greatest moments in life, I have a picture of me and my wife with our first washing machine and dryer. And I remember that like it was yesterday. We were so proud that we can afford to buy our own washer and dryer. We got it from like Costco. It was a photograph of it. And then like her parents got us a mini washer and dryer, like miniature thing that we put on the shelf. I was like, how stupid was that? But like we were so happy. Like buying that washer dryer set was so happy. I was like, there are so many kids that will never experience the joy of making a purchase like that because by the time they're like 18, like, what? Like, I'm just would have that, right? I was like, I never want to steal that joy from my kids. So I will never give them anything. Like, honestly, like that's my goal is to like, now I don't get to choose that because when you're married, you don't get to like unilaterally make choices. And so I have very strong opinions, but I'm only half of that decision, right? My wife. So like we haven't quite figured it all out. But the one thing I love that I think a lot of people don't appreciate are charitable foundations. So all these people that have trust funds that are managed by attorneys and you have to be managed, all this BS. Like the magical thing about having a charitable foundation is you can grow it as large as you want. It will never go anywhere. It will always grow, and it grows tax-free, which is super cool. And you're allowed to take a reasonable compensation for managing the foundation, for allocating the 5% that has to get distributed every year, and for choosing, what mutual funds it's in, right? Yeah. And so you could allow your children to take over a charitable foundation that you've set up, and they legally can only take a reasonable salary for the rest of their life and health insurance. Legally, if they ever take more than that, they can go to prison. So it's like this beautiful thing that exists that I think is a really good tool if you want to ensure that your kids are not going to go destitute, that they can have health insurance, that they can kind of take a reasonable salary, but probably not nearly enough that would keep them happy in life. And it's something that they don't have to do as a full-time job. They're still motivated to go out and build a life for themselves and build careers, to generate real money for themselves and learn how to invest, but they do have somewhat of like a backstop there, right? Yeah. And my big issue, guys, is that it's not like it used to be. I think the future generation of the haves and the have-nots are no longer kids that just worked really hard and got into really good careers. I hate to say this, I think the future generation of haves and have-nots are the ones that inherit the most. Because when you look, going back to that conversation about the 80 trillion, now some people are saying 115 trillion because the inflation keeps popping up. When you think about either getting a few $1,000,000 or not getting a few $1,000,000, that's the difference between the next generation of kids that are either living this life or living this life. That kills me. It never used to be like that. Never. There were the kids that had like trust funds were like far and few between back in my day. Like I didn't even know anyone that had I remember I met the first kid that had a trust fund when I went to SMU. No surprise, right? But even then, there weren't that many kids at SMU, which is like one of the wealthiest schools in the country, that had hedge funds in my circle. Now, like I look at my neighbors, like in my neighborhood, which is a really nice neighborhood, and I like hear a lot of the parents talking about Trump. I'm like, do all your kids have trust funds? Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, is that like just normal now? And I'm starting to realize that like, it's not even just a trust fund. Like the inheritances are insane. Like think about how many people are multimillionaires now, like just regular people in Ohio, just through the appreciation of their house. Okay, so your parents either have a house that's worth 1.2 million and you're going to get that value, or you don't. Like that could be the biggest differentiator for the next generation. That's very weird.
I think a lot of that's going to be sold for end-of-life care. Depending on how long people live, medical ailments, maybe not.
I don't think so. I mean, yes, some of it will be. Some of it will be. You're right. Some of it will be. But I'm not quite sure that much of it will be because we still have health insurance. Like there's still insurance, right? So that does take care of most end-of-life care. Maybe not as good as some people would like it to be. I think we're entering a new age of have and have-nots purely based on class system, based on the degree of inheritance you get when your family dies. I think about this all the time. And the reason for that is I've always had this thought that I would give my kids 0. But like, if I give them 0, it's not like it used, because in my world, it's like you work hard, you get a good job, and you build your life slowly over time. That's the environment I grew up in. But what if that doesn't exist in 20 years? You know what I'm saying? Like, what if that doesn't exist? And like the majority of people in America are getting some level of inheritance, and I was too rigid. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you have to kind of factor all that stuff in, and it's a lot to think about when you become a parent, because it's a big decision to make. You don't want to ruin your kids' lives by stealing joy from them of achieving things on their own. But if the world is changing and like our economy is changing such that it's normalized that everybody has a starting point that's here, because we all started here. Yeah. We literally all ramen noodles, like, dude, my first apartment was like $400 something a month. Like I literally didn't have a car for a while because it broke down and I couldn't fix it. I was taking buses to work, that's how it was in my day. Like, but that's just not how it is anymore. And as much as I hate that, that's just life. So you can't fight the truth. And so maybe there is a starting point that is a reasonable starting point that you should think about allowing or permitting your kids to start at that starting point. Is that an inheritance? Is it a trust fund? Is it taking over a foundation where they can earn income? I'm still trying, we're still trying to figure it out. We don't have the answer
yet.
The
one thing I've found is that a lot of the parents that are wealthy that we have on the podcast, their kids turn out so well when the kids start working for the parents or under them, different jobs or careers, and the parents put them to work. Like your children, you could have them come up with their own investing strategies.
Yeah.
Give them, hey, you get $1,000 because you helped me on this thing. You earned $1,000 from this. Figure out where to invest it. Let's do it together. Oh, you lost it. Where did you go wrong on that? How could you learn from that? Like Ben Malla's kid, such a stand-up act, and he's like working with Ben on these properties and like being there with contractors. Or Grant Cardone's daughter, my gosh, Sabrina, she's going and speaking at his gigs and like, doing sales calls. It's like, it's really impressive what he's kind of thrown her into this, and she loves it.
They also seem to have a lot of interest in that, though.
Oh, that's true.
And I think it would be hard to.
Okay, I was going to say that.
Yeah.
Guys, that's my dream. I would love to do it with my kids so much. You have no idea. Like I see Grant Cardone, and I'm like, oh,
they got a great relationship.
I was like, by the way, like I have an awesome relationship, but it's not that. And maybe they're 14, right? Maybe that's too early, and I don't want to push them too hard because, like, I feel if I push them too hard too early, they will revolt against it. And so, like, I want them to come to me if there's ever a point where I can engage with them like that professionally. Especially as it relates to investing. You believe me, I think about all that. I want it really bad. But I listen, I also pushed them to watch Goonies when they were way too young, and they were like, they didn't love it. And I'm like, oh, we pushed on them too young. I should have waited a couple more years. So like now I'm really careful to like let them live their life and let them pursue what they want to pursue and let them come to me. And I would love to have that day.
They're probably the best trendsetters out there. Like whatever they're into, chances are, if they get in early enough,
Yeah.